a very good evening to everybody. It's Valentine's Day, and what better way to spend it than with Toastmasters and with the District 91 webinar. So very, very good evening to everybody. We've got a fantastic webinar for you this evening, and one that's going to be really, really useful for you over the next couple of months, and also skills that you're going to be able to take forward with you, hopefully for many years to come. So before we get started, I just want to quickly go through the normal housekeeping bits and pieces. As you'll see from the top left of your screen, this is being recorded. So what we do is we put this onto our YouTube channel for everybody to then be able to look at and to be able to learn, for those of you who haven't been able to attend tonight. And I know we've got a couple of people that need to leave early. I will send out the link probably Tuesday, Wednesday, depending on how long it takes my laptop to work, with the link and all the bits and pieces on there. So that will be coming out over the next couple of days. If you don't want to be seen on camera, then please do turn your cameras off. But we really would like, and I'm sure John would like, as many faces as we can to make the interaction work on this. In terms of microphones, if you can keep your microphones muted, please, until the end. We will be throwing the floor open to a Q&A session at the end of this. So if you can keep your mics off and any distractions kept to a minimum would be great. If you do have questions as we're going along, then please feel free to put them in the chat. We will certainly keep an eye on those, and we'll make sure that John's aware of any questions that come in. And as I say, we have a Q&A session at the end. The important thing is to enjoy yourselves this evening, to really get into the subject. It's very technical tonight because it's all about Zoom, and especially in relation to contests. So as I say, we're in the middle of contest season now. This is going to be absolutely vital for people. But let me just introduce our speaker tonight, our workshop host, and he doesn't need a huge amount of introduction. He is known colloquially as Lord Zoom. He is the District 91 Toastmaster of the Year for last year, and has been absolutely critical in the success of last year's conference, and I'm sure again will be in our conference coming up this year. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Drinkwater. John, the floor is yours.
So what's the first bit of advice you want as a Zoom master? You don't want to keep turning on your microphone and saying, "We can't hear you." If somebody can't be heard because they've muted, then you can mouse over and use the unmute them option. And they will get a message asking to be unmuted. Or if you've cut them off, they will get through. So for those that want to know, I am sharing my PowerPoint and I'm sitting here in the corner. And of course, the first thing you want to know is how to do that before I get on to the more exciting thing in the contest. And it's in the share screen advanced options. You create the PowerPoint presentation, you save it as a file, you then give it to Zoom, Zoom then loads up the file and moves it around for you. So hopefully now you're feeling a bit more relaxed, because the most important thing for you guys as Zoom masters and mistresses is don't panic ever, because it's contagious. And if you panic, everybody else will. If you're calm, everybody else is calm. And it doesn't matter that the fire alarm's just gone off in the background. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that my mum's feeding tube will probably start beeping in a minute. I'll have to rush off to turn that off. It doesn't matter. So the first thing is, before the contest starts, whether you're doing a club, an area or a division contest, the first thing you must make sure you do is have your briefing before. And when I say before, I mean days before, not half an hour before. Because if anything goes wrong, you want time to sort it out. When people turn up for the event, you want to relax. You want them to know what's happening. You don't want contestants, judges, and everybody else turning up half an hour before the whole thing's supposed to kick off, and they can't get their camera to work. They've got this big light behind them. You can't see their face, and all those other big problems that are not problems if you solve them days before. It was given to us by Toastmasters International last year. You can have your briefing beforehand, days beforehand. Please, if you don't remember anything else, remember to have your briefing way before. And if you want to really push the boat out, have 2 briefings. Have one for the contestants, have one for the other people, the judges and all the ancillary people. You want to make sure their microphone works. And when I say works, I mean not that you can just about hear them, but actually works well. There will be people that will want to use their iPhone, and then they put it up that way up. And what happens? 3/4 of the screen becomes a black bar and they're just a little vertical line. That's no good. And then they do their iPhone and they get further back, and they're so far back that you can't hear them. All these issues can be sorted out before the meeting. That's why you have this. You make sure the lighting is good. My lighting is brilliant. I've invested time and energy making sure I've got a light over there, I've got a light over there. If I turn these lights off, you will see. You see how I suddenly get more dark? I've now got the light on one side of me and not the other. All these issues need to be sorted out because you want your contestants, look, you want your contestants to look their best, because if they get, whoever wins and goes on to the next level, you want to make sure they're their best so they can win at the next level. Now I'm going to make sure I turn on the right device, otherwise we'll have a bang. No, there we are, that's the right one. Rename all of your role holders. There are lots of different ideas out there, but basically you put a prefix of a few letters in so that you know who people are. Look, at club level, you can find people's names. Once you get to area level and you have 100, 150 people in the room, it's a lot more tricky to find people. If you have the prefixes set up, and remember you've got 2 sets of speeches, so you're going to have to work out a way to deal with that. But if you have, say, SP1, SP2 for your speakers in order, because again, before the contest, you draw lots for who, or the contest chair draws lots with you for who's in which order. You name them all as SP1, SP2, SP3. Then all you have to do is type SP in the participants list, and you can all try it now. If you all typed in AN in the participants thing, you will find all the people whose names have an AN in it. So if you have speakers as SP, you can type SP, it'll give you a list of all the speakers. Far quicker to find people. Chief Judge, CJ. Judges, J1, J2, J3, because remember, they're not allowed to be named. Make sure the name's taken off. And don't make the tie-breaking judge different. Muddle the tie-breaking judge in your J1, J2, J3, so the other judges don't know. That saves a problem, which the contest chair and the chief judges have made comments about this. Our chief judge has made comments about this, about having to hide that judge away from the other judges. Well, if you hide their name so that it's not, so none of the judges can tell which the tie-break is until it's all finished, then you don't have that problem. Then you can just have all the judges set out all together. Make sure your timekeepers are set up. Make sure your timekeepers practice. Make sure your timekeepers have a way of communicating with each other. If one timekeeper disappears, another timekeeper's got to take over. And this becomes the other issue, which is when you're all stuffed in one room, you're going to have all your chat off. If you have all your chat off, you're going to need an alternative way of communicating between everybody who's allowed to communicate, i.e. the judges talking to the judges, talking to the chief judge, talking to the other role holders when you need to. You will need an alternative method. You'll be able to send messages to them because you're the Zoom host. They'll be able to send messages to you in the text chat, but they won't be able to have other conversations. Does that all make sense? I have not one, not two, but 3 screens on this computer. I have a screen over, you can't see my hand now. I have a screen over that side with all the chat. So if you want to put your messages, your comments, just type them in and I can see them out the corner of my eye straight away. So before the contest is really crucial because it takes all the pressure off you. So please take some time to plan it and then take some time to actually do it. As far as your computer is concerned, you don't have any problems. So make sure you've updated your Zoom. Make sure everybody else has updated their Zoom because the features have changed and therefore things will be different for people if they haven't updated. Make sure everybody's got the last version. At least, don't worry about the audience, but make sure the contestants have the latest version. And for your computer, and I suggest for all them, disable Windows Update. If you have a Windows machine, disable Update. If you have a Mac one, I don't think it's as in your face when it does update, so it's not so much of a problem. But disable Windows Update. Make sure that when the people are running on their computer, they're not going to run any other programs or anything else, because it'll only confuse the system, only adds more problems, adds more chances of breaking down. And don't let anybody use backgrounds, because it just makes the computer work harder. If you heard the noise coming from my side of my computer on all fans blasting, I'm lucky. I've got a microphone right under my nose, so you can't hear it. But if you've got a microphone that's somewhere else and you make your computer run slow, you make your computer run hot, you have all these applications, you have emails appearing when the contestant's in the middle of a speech, you don't want that. So make sure everybody realizes, strip your machine down to what you're doing. And then the scariest thing a Zoom master has to do is to get the settings right. Now this means sitting down, logging into the Zoom account that you are going to be using on the web page and going through all the settings. There are lots of settings there. They all pretty much make sense when you read them. If you're not totally sure, there's usually a little question bubble that you can mouse over and it will give you a bit more advice. But here are the main rules that I think you need to make sure are done. Don't show profile pics. Why? Because this is an easy way of hiding the identity of all the judges. If you tell the judges to remove their profile pics, they won't know what they're doing. So just disable it so they can't be seen. So when their camera's off, they will have their name, which will be J1, J2, J3 or whatever, and there'll be no other way of telling who they are. If you have a multi-screen computer, there is an option to run multi-screen. That means you can have 2 sets of boxes of windows to see what's going on. As a Zoom master, it's very useful, but unfortunately, unless you physically have 2 screens on your computer, you can't use that option. When you're going down the list of options, there's an option to say HD mode, which is the high definition. It's the better video. Unless you think you have a lot of contestants with really dodgy signals, which again, you will find in advance, go on HD mode because it gives a better quality of video for everybody. There are loads of things you need to disable as well. You need to disable the chat. Now, fortunately, you can do that during the meeting, so that's okay. You can also disable the video. You can do that during the meeting, but you can't disable profile pics during the meeting. It's got to be done in advance. Also reactions. Shall I try a reaction now? I can't remember how a reaction, I don't know if you even see, you'll see a reaction in my video screen, you won't see it in the shared screen. So I've just done a thumbs up. You don't want reactions running during a contest because that's the audience influencing again, isn't it? Remember, the rule is the audience has to have their video off. They're not allowed to be seen. They're not allowed to influence the judges. So reactions are not allowed either. Breakout rooms is the one thing that's going to scare you all. Play with it in advance. It's actually a lot easier once you get used to it. But if you don't get the breakout room settings right, when you start a breakout room session, you get stuck and then you really are in a panic. If you do set up a breakout room and you set it up wrong, close it and start again. And for those people with an ego, that's like me, for instance, Zoom masters are not to be seen. No, there's no reason why you should be seen on camera. If you want to be seen on camera, I suggest you put your name down for a speech at your club, but there's no reason why why you need to be seen on camera at any time, not even if you've got to step in to do something. There is no reason. You should have the contest chair, probably, and I suggest you probably have the contest chair's camera on the whole time. They don't like it, but it's actually much easier for them if it's on the whole time than they have to keep worrying about turning it on and off. And then you can use pinning. Now, does everybody know how to use pinning? If you know how to use pinning, then I want you to do a thumbs up reaction. Or stick your thumb up. Yeah, I don't mind, whichever. Wonderful. If you don't know how to do pinning, you need to go and play with that. Now, there's another level of pinning. When you are a Zoom master, you can use spotlighting. Spotlighting is you forcing your pinning rules on everybody in the audience. So you can make sure that they can see the right person, the speaker. But you can now I wouldn't have suggested this a little while ago, because you would now have a state where the speaker's seen and the poor speaker now can't see the timer. But it is now possible to double pin and double spotlight. So you could highlight the speaker and the timekeeper. And my mother's food thing is beeping. I have to turn it off or my father will have a heart attack. I will be back in 13 seconds.
While John is dealing with that, if you do have any questions as we go along, as we said, put them in the chat window. We haven't disabled the chat. No, just checking up. We haven't disabled the chat. So please put the questions in there.
13 or was it a little bit less?
No, that was fine. That's spot on.
That's okay then. So double pinning and spotlighting is a really good way of making sure that everybody sees what you want them to see. Now, again, if you want to practice this, then you have a small problem. You can pin, you can have a meeting on your own. And I'm going to go through some of the features of Zoom at the end, rather than jumping in and out of slides. All right. And that proves I can see the notes. Yes. If you double pin what the recording shows, that's a good question. And the answer really is, if we're going to talk about recording, I suggest you have somebody who is there just to do the recording. You make them a co-host, because the catch is, if you are a co-host, then the spotlight rules don't apply to you. That person can then choose the people they want to watch, and you get the recording of what you want the recording to be. Does that make sense, Mary? All right, I'll give you a chance to type an answer. I'll show you some of these options at the end, but I don't want to go in and out of slides to do it. I'd like to show you live. As far as recording the contest is concerned, I would suggest that you do record your contest. You do not make it public. You record it, and you give recordings to the speakers of their content. So each of the speakers gets their speech, but you don't go public with the recording. That is my personal view, and I also believe that none of that actually breaks any of the rules. But I wouldn't go public with the recordings, because you're only, never mind the rules, you're giving an advantage to all the other speakers who are competing with you. So don't give the secrets away of your speeches, keep them to yourselves, but share them among your club members or your area members so they all get to see their speech, because they'll forget what they said. I'll forget what I've said at the beginning of these slides if it wasn't the slides following everything for me. So when the meeting starts, and let's talk about security and people turning up naked and all those other exciting things, which never happen on my meetings. First thing is registrations. In fact, every single meeting, dear Toastmasters, you should be using registrations. Every single one. because then people who are going to cause trouble are less likely to register because it scares them. And also, they're a bit more obvious as well if they aren't normal Toastmasters. And if you've got visitors coming to your club, if you choose a registration option, then there's a good chance that you'll actually have their contact details when they've joined. And that will help you as well when you want to follow up. So always, as a rule, do registrations. Start your meeting early, however early you like. But I always suggest when I do my meetings and when I do presentations in and out to Toastmasters is, can't see who that is, that people get early, half an hour early, 45 minutes early. And then what they do is they make sure everything's working and then they go away and have a cup of tea. So rather than panicking 5 minutes before as a speaker, whether you're doing a speech or you're in a competition, why not turn up half an hour early, make sure everything's working, and then go and have a cup of tea, a sandwich, everything, and come back later knowing your system works. When you start, you can use the waiting room and you can let people in one at a time. That way you can make sure all your role holders and everybody else is all sorted out. Liz, did you want something? No? Okay. Let the role holders in one at a time and then put them in a breakout room. So all the speakers can go in one breakout room on their own. All the judges can go in a breakout room on their own. And if you have judges coming in late, then because you're putting them all into rooms, they're all separated and you're not going to get any confusion or any worries about people recognizing people and all that sort of stuff. And if audience members come in, try not to let audience members come in until your role holders are sorted. But if they do, then just put them into another breakout room. Just shuffle everybody into breakout rooms and leave the main area, so to speak, free for you to organize stuff. And then when you're ready to start the whole thing, just close all the breakout rooms, brings everybody back, and you're ready to start. But of course, I keep mentioning this word breakout rooms, don't I? And people really don't know what breakout rooms are, do they? And they're all a bit worried about breakout rooms, aren't you? You're all worried about breakout rooms until you play with them. But I have some really good news, some really, really good news. The really good news is co-hosts can now control breakout rooms. So you don't need to have one Zoom host who has to do everything. You now could give the management of the breakout rooms to a co-host. So you could have your job broken up into different bits. This makes it so much easier. Easy with proper names. I don't even know where that came from. Who's been hacking my PowerPoint slides? No? No volunteers? Breakout rooms are easier when you've got somebody else helping you. But if you are going to do it, I suggest one of you Zoom people takes control of the breakout rooms and the other person does the other jobs, because it does get confusing when two of you start shuffling people in breakout rooms. But breakout rooms are a lot easier than they used to be. It's just getting the settings right. And we're going to have a look at that. Don't worry, we're going to have a look at that. So if you're all okay about breakout rooms, let's think about during the contest. Delegate tasks. As I said, have more than one co-host, so you delegate a few things around. Have one person to deal with inopportune people turning up. Don't feel rushed by anybody, because if you feel rushed, then it's going to be worse for the contestants. So just take things calmly. One co-host in charge of moving people around, one co-host in charge of doing things. And if you've got the waiting room set up, then people can't get into the room. If you're really concerned about it, lock the room. There's a lock the room function, people can't get in. Just remember though, if you lose a contestant, you need to unlock the room to let the contestant back in if they have technical problems. But as far as technical problems go, it's not your call. It is not your call. Neither is it your responsibility to fix any problems. To be honest, if you have a contestant who's got a sound problem, Think of what you're going to explain to them, but don't start trying to fix it. They've got to fix it. This is tough love. It's tough love for two reasons. The first reason is you don't want to be responsible in their mind for them not winning the competition because their microphone didn't work and you didn't fix it. And secondly, if things are bad, you won't be able to fix them. It's either going to be easy or it's going to be bad. It could be a sound problem, and then you can't hear them, and they come back on a mobile phone and they carry on. But it's not your decision. Don't make any advice or any decisions about what things do. Thanks, Elizabeth. It's okay. We'll see. You can see the recording. At the end of the competition, change the atmosphere. Once you've got those little judges off into their breakout room, you can do what the heck you like. Because the rules say you can't make a noise, you can't have your video on, you can't chat, you can't do this, that, and everything else in front of the judges. When you confirm to the Toastmasters, the chief judge has gone, the judges have gone, they are all away to consult, you can open it up and do what you like. Obviously, the contest chair is going to have something organized, but be aware that there's no rules at that point because the rules are in front of the judges. Once the judges have gone, let everybody let their hair down, do some interviews, do whatever you want to do, but take the pressure off the atmosphere. Because remember, all those Toastmasters have been locked up in that little room watching this contest, and they've not been able to take part, and they're really frustrated because they weren't able to take part. So let them free and let them get on with something, do something, or get something done with them. Interviews is a great idea for using time, but a more interactive thing, a warm-up type activity is not a bad idea. Again, plan this with your contest chair in advance. So let's give you some little hints about things if you might find useful. Did you know that when you're on a big view of all the people, you can drag people around? As long as you haven't got hidden, non-video people hidden, you can drag people around. If you have got non-video people hidden, you'll actually find that tells you that's why you can't drag people around. If you've got a dual screen system, take advantage of the dual screen because you can have multiple windows like I have. Remember, you can turn on and off the chat. So you can turn off the chat at the beginning because you don't want people trying to influence the speakers. But once the contest is finished, you can turn on the chat and they can all chat to each other. They can chat privately. It doesn't matter because they can't chat to the judges when the judges are not in the room. Remember that. Don't make everybody co-hosts because then it gets even more mad. There are too many things now. Look, it's really nice that it's not all down on the host and there's lots of features the co-host can help. The bad news is if you make a lot of people co-hosts, they'll all get confused because they've got all these new options they didn't know they had, and they'll break something. And don't forget that this multi-pin and multi-spotlight could be a way to organize, but have a go at it, see how happy you are with it, maybe even discuss it with the contest chair so that you all understand what the screen layout's going to be. And that are the main points of running a contest. I've not gone into such detail as I do in some other places because I think we've all had a go at something. But if you've got any questions, fire them in the chat and I am going to close this and show you a few screen bits. So I'm going to change my screen share to my computer and check that you're all still awake. Oh, you are. Lovely. Right, so if I share the screen, if I share that screen there. Okay, so there's my screen. Now, can you all see yourselves, looking at yourselves? That's gonna be a bit weird, isn't it? So you see, can I just have a yes from somebody that's working because I can't verify because yeah, lovely. See, can you see there's a very short delay when you stick your finger up and then it comes up there. So this is my Zoom that you can see. Now, of course, you'll think to yourself, John, you can't do that. Well, that's true. You can't usually, because if I pull this up as well, you all know that you click on this little one up here and you hit check for updates. You all know that, don't you? Of course you do. Clever people you are. But the other thing is you can click on settings here. And these settings are the ones which you need to make sure are right for you. This is the option here for doing dual monitors. Yes, Gillian, you can, yeah, Gillian, the rules have changed for the co-hosts, and I actually think a co-host can actually set up a room as well, which is what worries me with the latest version. So you can see there's the dual monitor thing. If you have two screens, then show that one. Always show meeting controls. Now that's very useful because can you see my things are disappearing and reappearing at the top? Well, if you're being a Zoom master, it's a good idea to have show meeting controls on the whole time, because then you don't have to worry about them disappearing. In the video, now this is a device for people using it. Mirror is quite a good idea, but if they have any writing that they want to show off, then bear in mind that they are now back to front when they are doing it, but they will be seen the right way around. So they've got to be careful the way they do things. Touch up appearance just softens the image. Can you see how it's changing the contrast for me? And if you have adjust for low light, then they need more lights. So I don't expect that one to be there. I've been in a habit of turning this one off, so I don't get the names of people when I'm doing videos. And this is the other thing which is important for you as a Zoom master. Look, you can change between 25. Can you see how this is actually changing in real time, which makes a change for Zoom? You see, I can go from 25 to 49 people, so I can see everybody much better. Recording. You want to set up the recording, then do so. But my advice to you is allow somebody else to record and leave them with the problem, because the recording records what you see. And as Zoom master, you're going to be running around trying to sort things out. You probably don't want to have the worry that everything you move and watch then gets into the recording. So if you're doing a recording to show the contestants how they get on, then you probably want to hand that job on to somebody else. You don't even have to make them co-host, you just give them permission to record. The mirroring option on Zoom, it's just been asked, the mirroring option on Zoom always catches me out because it's actually good news. If you get your mobile phone app, you have a Zoom option, a mirroring option, you get to mirror and the person watching you sees the mirror. On Zoom, it's not the same. On Zoom, you see the mirrored image, but the audience sees what's happened normally, which is a very nice thing to have. Most of the other options are going to be in your Zoom webpage. So let me find a Zoom and sign into a Zoom. Oh dear. Does anyone know what a bicycle looks like? These verification things on Zoom are getting annoying now. Okay, so here's my web page. And we don't want to listen to you, my man, you can go away. So here we have the settings. And you go to profile and settings on the left-hand side, and we're going to go through these really quickly. I'm just going to highlight the ones that worry me. First one is waiting room. You obviously want that on, although you can set that during the time. I won't worry about your meeting passcodes. I hope that they're all correct. Authenticated users and all this stuff, don't touch any of that, because that only works when you have a load of people in a corporate environment and they're all logged in a corporate environment. So don't worry about those. Here, I would suggest you have host video off. It's always better to turn it on physically than suddenly get the shock of it's on and you weren't ready. Don't allow participants to join before the host. You don't want people turning up early and you not be in control. Don't worry about any of those. Don't worry about the encryption thing. The chat, you want to turn chat off, but you can set that up in the meeting, so you don't really have to worry about that one. You might want to prevent people from saving chat. Private chat, again, you can set up in the meeting. Saving chat, you can set up in the meeting. Playing a sound, again, you can set up in the meeting. It's in the options in the security bit. which I haven't got running at the moment, but I'll show you in a second. You can, well, my suggestion is you have that on to start with, because when you're setting up the meeting, it's nice to hear a bing bong every time somebody turns up. But once the meeting starts, turn it off, or it will just confuse you and annoy you. You don't want file transfer because you don't want chat or anything. You don't want to start giving feedback to Zoom, and you don't want to do an end of what's it survey, which you only do on webinars anyhow, so it's not worrying. Right, we're now get to the serious ones. Meeting polls. You probably want to turn them off because you're not going to need them in the contest. Allow show meeting control bar. Yep, you want that, so you can worry about that. Show screen share. You shouldn't really need that one, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about screen sharing. Don't worry about annotations, turn it off. You don't need a whiteboard, turn it off. You don't need remote control, turn it off. Non-verbal feedback, turn off. Otherwise, people can start using reactions in the contest, which is a little bit not right and not really allowed. Meeting reactions are the same sort of thing. They're all bundled together, so I don't know why they haven't put the options together in Zoom yet. Allow remove participants to join. Okay, so if you've got somebody who's misbehaving, you've got two things you can do. You can put them in the waiting room and let them sulk, or you can kick them from the meeting. If you kick them from the meeting and you have this enabled, they can come back into the meeting. If you kick them from the meeting and this is disabled, they can't get back. So I leave it to you to decide what you're going to do. Personally, I would have it off. I only have it on because I like people coming back, and so I can make them suffer a second time. Allow participants to rename themselves. In a way, you probably don't want that on. And then if somebody is wrongly named, like a speaker or a judge or whatever, then you could do it. So I would, for a contest, not allow that. Here's that important one: hide participants' pictures. So if a chief judge or a judge has their image, and when they turn their camera off, their image is then shown and they can see who they are, this stops that happening because this stops them doing it. Except, of course, these little V's give you extra advice. They've got to have version 5 or later. Well, I would like to think they'd have version 5 because version 5 has been around for a long while now. But that's an important feature. Check your judges will, when they turn their camera off, will not be seen. Make sure that works in that meeting beforehand. Don't worry about reporting people to Zoom. Make sure your breakout rooms. I had to take over somebody's area contest at short notice. And what did I do when I got into the room? Breakout rooms were not enabled. I had to close the meeting and restart the meeting to get breakout rooms running. So make sure breakout rooms are live. Remote support you can't have with breakout rooms and all the sharing we're doing. So make sure that's turned off, and captioning off, and captions. You won't have language interpretation. That's only a posh thing that I've got, so I can have multiple people doing registrations. Don't worry about it. Far end control off again. This is what I said about high definition video. Activate it unless everybody's on wireless and they can't get the signal in. But really, for quality of service and a good meeting, you really want to make this enabled if you can. Virtual backgrounds. Well, look, I don't like people using virtual backgrounds during contests because I think it only slows their computer down. I would suggest that you tell them you're not going to even allow it. It doesn't help. And under the official contest rules that TMI gave us at the start, one of the underlying rules they gave was they didn't want there to be any technical advantage to people. So under the idea of technical advantage, there is a good reason to not allow virtual backgrounds. Yes, screen sharing could be used for the presentations at the end, Annalise. Good point. Virtual backgrounds for timers. That is a really good question. I'll refer to that in a second. Video filters off. There aren't any other options there that are going to be of any real use to everybody. Yeah, this is going to be slightly controversial. Request permission to unmute. Don't really need it on. Some people may think that's wrong. These are all about recordings. You don't have to worry about those. So that is it. Let's talk about timekeepers. Sorry, timekeepers. You are not here to be seen either. Timekeepers, how can I be polite about this? I can't be polite about this. Timekeepers, you must have your cameras off, because if you have your cameras on, you're going to get in the way of the timekeeping. You're going to distract. You're going to give an unfair advantage to people who, if you laugh when somebody is funny and the next person isn't funny. So timekeepers, you have your camera off, but you have your camera off in a special way. And that is, you have your camera on, but you cover it up. Now, I've got a ridiculously expensive camera, and therefore I've got a bit of plastic that I can stick across it. The rest of you can use a bit of cardboard. Cover your camera up, make you black. Now I can use the virtual backgrounds, which I've uploaded from the Toastmasters sites on Epson speakers and many other places. And I now have my nice, clear timekeeper slides. And because I'm not got my ugly little face in the middle, look, it's just silly, isn't it? Isn't that distracting when you're trying to find out where the timekeeper is? So just cover your camera up, and then your timekeeper gives nice, clear instructions. If you need the virtual backgrounds, you can go to Epson speakers. We have a menu item with all the roll holders. If you look at the timekeeper, there's all the timekeeper's images there. I'm mentioning that because I can't remember the page where they are on the district website, but I know they're there. And if you Google it, you'll probably end up on the TMI site with the backgrounds there as well. There are a few variations. I would suggest using the ones which have the words in them, because anyone who has a colorblind issue, or the fact that their computer just isn't just displaying the colors very well, which I've seen just as well, see them just as much, then it's a bit obvious that they are the right colors. Frankly, if I saw a timekeeper in a contest holding up a colored piece of paper, I would probably cry foul and say that that contest is invalid, because come on now, guys, let's be a little bit, a bit professional for our contests and give our contestants the best chance. And holding up a colored piece of paper is not the way of doing it. There's nothing in the rules about that. There really should be. So virtual backgrounds are enabled. Yes, you've caught me. Virtual backgrounds are enabled, but I don't want anyone using them except timekeepers. That's probably the best way of saying it. Now, what else can we talk about? Any questions? I have rushed through this quicker than I ever have before, but I'm really trying to keep to the main bits. Do you want to have a bit of fun with breakout rooms? I don't think we can. I can't see breakout rooms running. Maybe I should stop sharing my screen and then I can. Oh, Andy hasn't got breakout rooms enabled. There we are. So Andy's not running a contest.
Yes, I have. Yes,
have
I
you?
have.
Why can't I see it then?
I don't know. Oh, you're not a co-host.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a co-host. I've done all this presentation. I'm not even a co-host. God, dear.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Right, so I can now put my camera back on, and I can now answer that question, which I believe Gillian mentioned. Gillian, I am the co-host, and I have breakout room controls. So let me do some housekeeping here. Let's turn this ridiculous background off. Let's share that big screen again. So I want to share that one there. And then if I lift this up here, okay, right, let's see if you're all awake. Thumbs up when you can see the breakout rooms options. Can you see the breakout rooms options on the screen? Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so breakout room rules have changed since Christmas quite dramatically, really, because there are 3 ways of doing breakout rooms. There's automatic, which means Zoom just chucks everybody into rooms, it feels like. There's manually, which is what we want to use. But there's also this other version, which I will mention, called let participants choose a room. So if you want to do an event, you want to do something at club level, and you want to set up some breakout rooms, and then people can choose which group they join, that's what let participants choose room is. It's jolly useful. So we're going to set up manually. That's our decision for all of the Zoom rooms that we want to create for breakouts during the contest. But it's the next thing that can be different depending where you are in the contest. So you can see I've just got the one room set because that's all I asked for. But if haven't got enough rooms, I can click add a room and add the rooms I want. I can use the assign button to take people into those rooms. But the more important thing is first, I can name the rooms. Now, naming the rooms is a good idea because then you can remember which people you stuck in which rooms. It's amazing how quickly you can forget which people you put into which rooms, especially when you've done this a few times. So I can have a room for the judges. I can have a room for the contestants. And although everybody will see these names, they're really for your delectation. But the important thing is this button here, this options button. This will make or break when your breakout rooms work. Let's explain these different options. Allow participants to choose a room. Now, we've already had that question, but here you are. It's a chance for participants to go where they like. Obviously, in a contest, we don't want them to have that power. We want to push them around, so you don't have that checked. Allow participants to return to a session at any time. Yeah, I have that enabled, but put the fear of God into the contestants and tell them if they return back to the room when they're not supposed to, I will suggest to the chief judge that they are disqualified. Now, there's nothing in the rules about this, but let's just think about the real world. Would you let a contestant standing outside of your room to burst their way into the room where the stage where another person is presenting in the middle of a contest? Would you allow that? No, of course you wouldn't. So don't allow them to do it in a virtual world either. They must not come back into the room when they are not supposed to. Unfortunately, you need that one clicked because if you want to get them back into the room, I find that you have to have that clicked to get them back into the room. Automatically move, you want checked so that when you are shuffling people and places, they go as soon as you ask, not they get requested, would you like to? And it's so tempting to send Andy into a breakout room, isn't it? Just to prove the point. Do not set breakout rooms close after any particular time whatsoever, because the law of Murphy will say that if you tick that box and the contest goes on a bit longer, then suddenly all your breakout rooms close when you weren't ready. So do not have that clicked. And the countdown timer, make the countdown as low as possible, which is 10 seconds, because when you're moving people, you don't want them waiting 30 seconds for the next contestant to come out of the room in those contests. So you can see, you can set these rules up, and when you set the rules up, and at the beginning people are chatting, so you can go around and you can assign. It's all right, I'm not going to open the rooms, don't worry. I can assign all the judges. Remember we said get the judges' names, so we have the judges, which will be J1, JX, whatever. So we'll find all the judges with a J, and then we'll assign them all. And then we want the contestants. We've got the contestants as speaker 1, speaker 2, so we do SP. And we ought to find them. Can you see how much quicker it's going to be to organize your breakout rooms when you need them with just some simple wording? Yes, Helena, that was probably the time. It was probably the breakout room close after that brought everybody back into the breakout room. That's the mistake I see people use. So make sure that is not checked, because it is a pretty much a disaster when that happens. But if it does happen to you for any reason, do you know what to do? Come on, answers in chat. If people appear back into the breakout room when they're not supposed to, what do you do? Well, one of the things you can do, just open the rooms again, just chuck them back in again. And at least you can get that sorted. So you can, if you have a set of settings about where everybody is, if you open the rooms again, they'll all be chucked back into what you've just set. Okay, that may then kick out the contestant who's doing the speech, but at least you get things back into a semblance of order and you can get things restarted. How I get timer? Sorry, I don't understand the question. How do you get timer? The timer you get by well, let's who's on? Evelyn is going to be our speaker, so I'm going to spotlight her for everybody. And then Andy's going to be our timer. So I'm going to add him as a spotlight. What do you all see now? You see your speaker and your timer. Now, with all due respect to those competition people, those contestants who think they know their way around Zoom, we have now leveled the playing field for everybody, because whether you know how to use Zoom or not, I have now forced everybody in the audience, including the speaker, to see one speaker and one timekeeper. Now, we didn't have this option until very recently, because this idea of double pinning has only come within the last month or two, but it's really powerful. And if you want to embarrass Helena because she's the contest chair and have her seen at the same time, guess what? You can put her on the screen as well. And if you then feel that Andy's enjoying this too much, you can remove him. Look at that. Now, isn't that an easier way of organizing people? I wish we'd had it last year. I really wish we'd had it last year. It would have made my life so much easier. And this works again for advice generally. This I'm doing Spotlight, which is then therefore applying to everybody except co-hosts. So Andy wasn't getting this, but this applies to everybody. If you want to do it at your own level, in other words, for your personal delectation, and the person is not spotlighting, you can use pin, because pin is just a local version of Spotlight. Pin is for you pinning people. Spotlight is for forcing that pin on everybody else. So you might all want to go and play with that, because it is a jolly good way of running things. Thank you very much to my volunteers. And you could see that the spotlight was appearing and disappearing on people. So you can move people, add people. It is a very easy way of managing those people. Jane, we have a recording of this. Exactly what it records, I don't know. We'll see what, and it will record what Andy's watching. So if Andy's been watching Helena all day and not looking at the rest of us, then what we'll have is a very nice video of Helena. So we'll have to see. But I'm actually creating a whole load of Lord Zoom shorts just on each particular item, because I'm getting the same questions fired at me all over again. I'm like, that's fine, because you all got the question, but it seems easier for me to just write some, instead of keep doing long presentation, just do some little snippet videos. And I'm working on them at the moment when I'm not doing all the conference stuff as well. So we will have those. Any more questions? Well, while you're thinking of questions, let's talk about chat. So nobody's written any embarrassing messages to me, so that's fine. We won't cause any trouble there. So your chat options are here. So this is the chat window. Hey, isn't sharing the Zoom controls so much easier to explain stuff? Here's the little button you want to hit for chat. So in the chat, there's 3 little buttons in the bottom right-hand corner, and you have the rules for your participants. So it's no one can chat, which is a bit cruel. No one host only. Host only is what I usually have. That means that people can message the host if they've got a problem, but they can't talk to each other. Everyone publicly is what we are effectively got now, because everybody's sending messages to each other. And then the yet other version, which is what we have running at this second, is publicly and privately and directly. Now, directly means people can message each other. So you can do personal message to each other. And then we'll look at the recording later. No, actually, for your GDPR reasons, even I can't find out what your personal messages are unless they're to me when in the chat. So the chat transcript that records stuff only records public messages. So obviously you want this down to, well, it depends how good you are with coping with random messages from people. You can have it on no one, so no one can send any messages, but that usually gets people stressed out. So for a contest, I will usually have host only. So that means at this moment in time, you can't do public messages. You can only send a direct message to me. And there we are. Somebody sent me a direct message already. And then when the contest is over, you can turn it back on to everyone publicly and directly, and that way everybody can have a chat and chill out after the contest. All the reactions have been moved now And if they haven't been moved on your version, then you haven't got the latest version. All the reactions are now moved onto this reactions button. There used to be some on security and some on chat, but they are now all on here, including the raise hand, which is the one where if people want support, they click on. So all those buttons are there now. There's a few extra buttons than there were before as well. And there we are. Annalise is now sticking her hand up to show she can. Wonderful. And they're all there. And the security things that you can use during a meeting are all now under the security tab. It's a lot more organized. So you see, I can turn off the ability to share the screen. I can turn off the chat. I can stop people renaming themselves, unmuting themselves, starting videos. It's all there. And I can also enable or disable the meeting room. Or oh, we're all locked in. Did anyone know that? We're all locked in. So any latecomers can't get in. Well, that's a bit cruel, isn't it? There we are.
I did that deliberately to prevent our friend from coming back.
Oh, right. Well, you should have. Well, you see, the problem is if you had, going back to here, that's okay. If you had the I can't remember where it is now. But if you had the option that on your, now this wouldn't make a difference because this is my version. Obviously, this is not the version we're running. So it's got to be the Zoom account that you are running. But if you have the Zoom account saying they can't come back, then when you kick people, they can't come back into the meeting. Just be careful you do that. If you're going to do that, you don't kick a contestant because they've got a technical problem, then they can't get back in. It could get a little bit complicated. Okay, so we're coming to the end of an hour, which means I don't know what to do really, because I'm only used to speaking for 5 to 7 minutes. Any questions? Anything that I've got wrong? Because I usually get something wrong. Usually I pretend it's on purpose to see if you're all awake, but anything that you don't think I said is right? Any challenges to the rules? Because what I say is only a suggestion. What you say is only a suggestion. The chief judge at the end of the day has all the rules. And most of the things that I say that I suggest you can get disqualified for, you can't. But sometimes you have to scare the contestants into behaving because you want them to treat the place with respect like they would anywhere else. Now, I can see, and again, I will show this to you because it's useful. In the participants page, you can see at the bottom, I have hand and 1. So I know somebody's lifted their hand up. So would you like to ask your question to everybody? Yeah. Oh, we got 2 hands up now. Now you've realized you can have hands up and then get a chance to talk. You all want to do it now.
So if it's my turn,
please.
Yeah, so my question is regarding the automatic way of transferring people into breakout rooms. Yes. So if you have at the same time contestants and judge room set up, you have taken all the table topic speaker into the room, and now you want to transfer the judges at the same time. That is something wrong, because when you open the rooms, all the judges will be into the breakout rooms as well. So is that the way? And then you take them out, and then how do you put them in without putting the contestants back in?
What you're going to do is you're going to create multiple breakout room sessions during the time. So the first time is at the beginning of the contest, where I suggest you have a breakout room for the contestants and you put all the contestants in there. You have one for the judges, put them all in there, put all the other role holders in another room, and put the people that get through because you didn't know who they were and you had to let them in the room to find out who they were, put all the audience into another breakout room. So you separated around. So the judges, the chief judge can then go and have a word with the judges, make sure they're all happy before the contest starts. Can then go, if you make them a co-host, the chief judge and the contest chair co-host, they can then move themselves between rooms because they then have the authority. They can go to whoever they need to and make sure everything's all right. Then you close that. That brings everybody into the room and the contest chair starts the conversation. Now let's assume that we are having a table topics, or in other words, one of the ones where we have to shuffle the people. So, okay, so what you need to do now is you need to type your SP or whatever you've called them, and you need to open a new breakout room from scratch, and you put all the contestants into that breakout room and kick them off. I think, yeah, I think the problem some people have is thinking that you set up one breakout room and you keep opening and closing the same one. No, you don't need to do that. What you need to do is to recreate. And then once you start thinking like that, it just gets easier. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it's exactly what happened to me. And when I've seen you creating the old rooms, I was wondering, there's another trick you think? I don't know, but
yeah, you have to close that room and then create a new and create breakout rooms all over again. So that's the button here, and recreate. Am I still screen sharing? I am, aren't I? Yeah. So recreate, and it go back to the start, and you can set your new set of rules.
So it's just like what I.
Yeah. If you hit open rooms, then it will just go back to the settings you had the time before. Okay. Evelyn, do you want to ask something?
Actually, it was me that asked the question, and it's been answered now by Helena. I thought my question really was about the quarterfinal, which is videos only. And when they first introduced that system, we had a special live recording. Now it's all on Zoom. So would the videos that go forward for the quarterfinal, would they simply be recordings of the video contest as normal?
Yes, we treble recorded our contest. So we had one person recording it locally. We had it recorded to the cloud, and I was actually doing a screen capture recording of it as well, because we wanted to make sure that we had a good quality recording, because you're not allowed to edit the recording. So you've got to be really careful to make sure that you've got a good quality recording, and you can't edit it in any way, can't change the brightness, the contrast. They want it exactly as is. So yes, you want to record the whole contest and then cut out. And I suggest you cut out 30 seconds before the contestant's introduced and 30 seconds afterwards, so that they can see that it's a legitimate recording.
Does that depend on having a special webcam, or are we all dependent on whatever camera there is on the computer?
We are all dependent on what camera or computer we have.
So we don't use webcam.
This is why there were a lot of that look like slightly silly rules came out of TMI when we started, because what they wanted to do is they wanted to make sure that everybody had the same opportunity, and it wasn't dependent on whether you had a good quality camera or a bad quality camera. So that's why you're not allowed to move the camera, and you have to have the same stage area, because they were trying to think of all the things they could do to make sure it's a level playing field for everybody. And this is why that pre-meeting, when you get all the speakers together, is really important, because you make sure, because with all due respect, you're a good example of not a good lighting situation, because you've got quite a lot of your face in shadow. So there we are. You see, lean back a bit more. You've got light on you. You look better already. But that's one of the things you want to make sure. You want to make sure all your speakers are able to be seen well. Because if they want to have a glint in their eye, they want to wink at the audience, you want to make sure that they are well lit, and also well lit, whether they're forward or backwards. Because sometimes they'll set up well, and then they start doing their speech and they do a whisper to camera, and when they lean forward, they go into the darkness and they disappear. So it is a question of preparing the people, the contestants. When we did our contest last year, I'm not really giving away any secrets here. When we did the contestants last year, I said to all the contestants, you can come and have a private one-on-one Zoom call with me as many times as you need to do until you are happy, you look good, and you sound good. Don't ask me if your speech is any good, because I don't know. I'm no good at that. But I'll make sure you look good and sound good, and then it's all up to you as a contestant. And people bought new microphones, because they were worried about the echo and things, and they would just come on for 3 or 4 minutes. John, does it sound good? Do I need to change it? And then they would go away, and they all then were able to produce what was good enough for them. You should be doing that at club level, not just area level and division level. Make sure that we get the technology out of the way. Not everybody wants to have a room full of 8 computers and 15 screens like I have here. Actually, that's an exaggeration. I've only got 6 computers. And
I'm just looking at myself on my own.
I know, because I'm sharing screen and you're in the middle.
There's a time lag.
Yes, because it's going in one, out the internet, and back in one, and then back out the internet again.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else? One of our contestants.
I think Deanne has her hand up there, John.
Yeah, Deanne, do you want to ask us something?
Yes.
Yeah, that's you. I can see it. Thank you, Olga. Yeah, what we really need for you, Deanne, is a nice big lower third, don't we? Nice big coming on as well. One of our contestants wants to use a chat in their speech for audience interaction. Mary, I don't think that's going to be allowed, only because the contest rules say that you're not allowed to have the audience chat on camera on. So I don't see how they can do an interaction with the audience, I'm afraid. They can only tell a joke and then count to 3, assuming people are laughing. This rule was given only because Toastmasters International thought, and they probably weren't correct, but they thought that if somebody is allowed to see everybody on the screen, that takes more bandwidth, and they were concerned about bandwidth of some people not being as good as others, and therefore to level the playing field, they cut the audience out. That is actually why the audience is not allowed in the contests currently. It's not because Toastmasters don't want you to have audience reaction. It is simply trying to make sure that technically everybody has the same chances. That's a rule that they've set, and we have to live with it for now, I'm afraid. So I think adding text chat and audience interaction is going to be probably not. It's going to be up to the contest chair and the chief judge, but it's probably going to be on the edge of no, I'm afraid. Yeah, but I know it's about chat, but I think they will be better off trying not to do it, because there's always a chance that somebody's then going to dispute it, because it does say don't. It does say that you can't interact with the audience. But if they're really insistent about it, then I suggest they have a word with the chief judge before their contest and get him to make the final decision. Because at the end of the day, it's him that makes the call. I just do the technical stuff. Those people that need to go, please go. Thank you very much for being here. If anyone else has got any other questions or need anything else demonstrated. No, thank you, Deanne. Thank you for bringing that Valentine's background for us. I wish I'd had that now. You've outdone me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So can we just have a big round of applause, please, for John? So you can all unmute and a round of applause, please, for John. I think that's been a really useful session.
Thank you, John.
So thank you very much. So next week on the webinar series, we have the amazing Liz Hobbs, who is going to talk to us about DISC for the area directors out there in D91. You've already been through DISC training, but this is a very quick overview of what DISC is, and we are looking forward to it next week. 2 weeks time, we have got Gene Gamester, Pat Johnson and friends for a discussion about parliamentarianism and Robert's rules and all sorts of things to make sure your meetings are run to proper standards. So that is going to be a fascinating trip. So the webinar series, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we bring a variety of things to your Sunday evenings here. My thanks very much to John. If you've got any questions, then feel free to contact John or to ping me and I can pass them on to John. So on behalf of us, thank you very much indeed. Have a great week. Stay safe and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much. Good night.